Hey, it's Southside Steve and Jeff Cole, and it is the Yeah Come On Show podcast, brought to you by Yeah Come On Bourbon Whiskey. 80 proof, smooth, and a little smoky, guaranteed not to give you a hangover. I've tested it.
I tested it too, and I can agree. As long as I don't mix it with a ton of beer,
Okay.
I'm totally fine. But if you mix it with beer or wine, you're gonna get hungover.
I don't know that I really appreciate you saying that, but it's factual, right?
It's factual. But if you just drink this straight up, no mixer, just on the rocks for hours, you can have as many as you want, and you'll feel fine the next day.
Okay.
That I've already proven.
Okay. As you cross your legs. So I like that. I'm going to cross too. We're both in denim today. I thought I would wear denim for you.
I know. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And because you don't like me in shorts all the time. That's all I wear.
Shorts don't work for the pursuit of show business.
Okay. And that's what this show's about. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of show business. All you're going to see is people that have been at the top, but are there people that are climbing, trying to get to the top, and did they fall down, or are they still at the top? I mean, we're seeing a lot of people. It's about throwing spaghetti at the wall. Does it stick, or do you leave a stain? And that's what it's about. It's thick skin. I would say both of us have thrown a lot of spaghetti at the wall. We're doing it right now.
Yeah. In real time.
In real time, we're throwing spaghetti at the wall. It only sticks if you like it. So subscribe, like it. But I think we bring on a different person. I think anybody we bring on is worth hearing about and talking about, especially our guest here today. And our tagline, which I love.
Unsolicited material.
And when Jeff says unsolicited material, a lot of people have put out so many things to push their narrative, to push whatever business. In other words, what they want to do. A lot of times they have a day job. No offense, you have a day job.
Yeah, I've had day jobs since I was 14 while pursuing all of the show business things. And yeah, like you said, our guest today, I think, has done a lot of the similar things as both of us.
Exactly.
In his career. And, to me, got pretty well known in Atlanta as the music guy.
Well, when I was at 88.5, I knew who our guest was. When I got to 96 Rock, I knew who he was, and I knew the name and what he was surrounded by, which was the hottest music in Atlanta at the time. And I know him as a writer, but I also know him as somebody that just knows music, and you know music. And I will say this, Jeff got a little... You got a little excited when you realized he was going to come on the show. I like it when you're into somebody and you kind of,
Yeah, when you come across an Atlanta music icon, maybe a little exaggeration there, but very well known, and I've always heard. I've run into him over the years, so yeah, I kind of fanned out.
He's one of the people Jeff idolizes. I'll just go ahead and say it. I was trying to beat around the bush. Also, when he comes in, we will talk because y'all have had sex with the same girl.
I think that is true. Yeah.
I don't know if it was at the same time, but we will find out. It is a name that you know from Atlanta from the late 80s through present day. A man that had a magazine, a man that worked on 99X and Z93. We'll talk about it all. Our guest today on the Yeah Come On Show podcast is Mr. Jeff Clark. And Jeff will now play the role of Ed McMahon, and I will be Johnny Carson.
Can you do the Ed McMahon laugh?
Yes, you are correct, sir.
Thank you. All right, well, here we are with Jeff Clark, and let's get started. Where did it all start for you? We like to start at the beginning.
I was born a poor black child in 1964.
No, that's Jeff. Jeff's the one trying to get dark. He's a tan man.
Where did it start for me? In radio, you mean? Writing?
I would say for you, when
music.
When you start off as a person, we all do our jobs, whether you're going through college or not, and then, I did sales, I did airlines. I was trying to find where my personality worked and what I was interested in. And I would say to you, where did it start? When did you have an idea that you were going to go towards broadcasting and music?
Well, I always thought it would be fun, even when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. But I didn't really know how to do it. I thought you had to go to like some special school for like 10 years to study radio. Yeah. Little did I know, you didn't have to do anything. But
no.
I mean, when I was in high school, I would actually before that I would also like publish a little magazine. When I was a kid, I would publish a little. I wouldn't publish it. I'd draw it out at home. And like just about my family members and stuff. So I would do silly things like that too. So I mean, my interest in both like writing and radio started when I was a kid. My first real job was working in a Sherwin-Williams paint store. So that didn't really have anything to do with it.
Oh,
but,
dude, that's like Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
That's where he started.
No,
I'm working at a paint store.
Working at a paint store, but ever since then, that was when I was a teenager. Ever since then, every job I've ever had has involved music in some way. I'm just a big music fan.
Were you ever in a band or actually play anything? Did you ever?
Heck no.
No, you just fanned.
Bands are for nerds. No, I never played an instrument. I never.
Nerd.
No, I never did any of that. I'm more of a professional fan.
Okay.
I think that's really what I consider
I'm
myself.
a listener.
I'm just a fan, and I'm really interested in all kinds of music. That's one reason I could never be in a band. Bands usually play the same kind of music forever. And my interests are just all over the place. So I just couldn't get, stuck with one thing. But
what was your first job, would you say, when you came in and this is kind of what you want to do? Was it radio?
The first music-oriented job I had was working in record stores.
Oh, dude.
I worked at various Turtles record stores back in the 80s. Then I worked at a place called Atlanta CD. There were several of those around town, a local chain. Didn't really get started into radio until I started going to Georgia State University. This is several years out of high school. It was probably 1986, I think.
All right.
I started going to Georgia State University, and they at the time they had an amazing college radio station called WRES 88.5, Album 88.
All three of us.
Yeah.
We're on 88.5.
We all three worked there various times.
I came in at 90.
Okay.
As the oldest freshman ever. I think I was 27.
I was still there in 1990. I was the music director at Album 88 at that point. So yeah, worked there until early 92, I guess.
That's about the time I was getting on, because I started it took me a year to get on. I kept walking in there. I didn't fit the narrative. Everybody was very hip, all dressed in black, a lot of Doc Martens, and I'm walking in with tassels and pleated pants and Tommy Hilfiger stuff, and I'm like, obviously I looked like a conservative, and they were like, yeah, we're holding off on you and your highlighted hair.
I don't know. I would say from my memory of working being there for about 6 years or so, we had all types. I
became one of your types.
It was the most craziest mix of people I think I've ever worked with.
Do you remember the secretary, the guy secretary?
Oh gosh, yeah.
He was snarky.
That guy's a trip.
He is, and he finally I won him over, but for a year he gave me hell.
Oh yeah, that guy was a trip. His name escapes me right now. I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So at least he was there. Yeah. So that's funny. But so that's where you go into 88. And what people don't realize, even Willard, who was on 96 Rock, he's the one that got him the licensing. It was 100,000 watts. It was the biggest college station in the nation.
It became, I can't remember what it was before, but just after I started there, I think it was 86, 87, that's when they became 100,000 watt stations, which is the most power you can have as an FM station. And there are very few non-commercial stations that have or had that kind of power. You could hear it in Alabama. You could hear the station up in Chattanooga and stuff. It was all over Georgia. For the most part, and so it was. We had a big audience, and it was at the time when I started there, and when I became the music director. It was when alternative rock, like new wave, punk, college music, they called it back then, new modern rock. It was becoming bigger and bigger, more popular, and so we had a really good listenership, and it was a great time to work in college radio.
Now, when you being the music director, I remember being there, and you mentioned Tori Amos coming in. That's where I got hip to Joan Armatrading. I got hip to Peter Murphy, Nick Lowe. A lot of different music that I just was not exposed to. But I ended up doing the 88 Rewind, so I was playing. Not Run DMC, but I was playing like Duran Duran and some of the 80s new wave music on the show. So they gave me that because I was.
You were the house of retro pleasure.
Pretty much. The 88 Rewind was just a 2-hour show, but you were on the edge. So you knew the music. Did it bother you when 99X came into play and 88 was just no longer the thing? Now it was commercialized.
Didn't bother me at all, because by that point I had graduated from Georgia State, so I wasn't even working at 88.5 anymore. And about a month after 99X came on the air from becoming Power 99, they hired me. And they gave me a Sunday night show, which was, again, spotlighting new music. I mean, 99X at the time was obviously all about new music anyway, but they were playing the more bigger groups, the more mainstream stuff. So they gave me a show to delve a little bit deeper. It was called Fear of Music. And I did that for, I guess, 3.5 years-ish. On Sunday nights, just spotlighting, more underground stuff, lesser-known bands, deeper cuts. We had a lot of guests on my show, bands, everyone from like Glenn Danzig and Courtney Love to PJ Harvey and Debbie Harry. All kinds of people came on my show. And we just had a great time doing it. To this day, it's the best job I've ever had.
What did you run across him?
And well, hearing you on 99X, and then probably reading you in Creative Loafing. So were you doing both at the same time?
Both at the same time. There was a time. Before I worked at 99X, while I was still at 88.5, the Georgia State station, I also got a part-time job at Z93, which was a classic rock station.
Yes.
In Atlanta at the time. Later, it became Dave FM for a while, and then became Hispanic Sports Talk. I think Hispanic Sport Talk would be more interesting.
Yeah,
I probably would have listened to them talk about sports. Didn't anyway.
Shots fired.
And I was managing a record. I was going to Georgia State, going to classes. I was managing an Atlanta CD store. I was the music director at 88.5 and was doing on-air shifts there. I was writing for Creative Loafing and working for Z93 all at the same time. I don't know how I survived that. No. Eventually, I didn't.
Yeah. It's tough.
It was insane.
And it's hard to say no. You're like, I can do it.
It was insane. I started writing about music, doing interviews of bands and reviews and so forth while I was at Georgia State. At one point, because I can be difficult sometimes. And so at one point I got canned from 88.5. They get out of here.
Today I'm difficult.
And so
fire me if you want.
And so I ended up writing in my spare time. I had nothing to do, so I started writing for the Georgia State newspaper, writing music reviews and doing band interviews. Interviewed.
That was right across the hall from 88.5.
Interviewed Dinosaur Jr. for that paper, and Edie Brickell and the New Bohemians and whatever. Anyway, so that's where I got my writing start. And shortly after that, maybe a year or two after that, Creative Loafing hired me to do music. I mainly covered the local music scene for them. So I was doing all this stuff in the 90s. It was an insane...
So it was
an insane decade for me.
Were you looking to primarily just be a writer or be a full-time DJ?
Both. I wanted to do it all because I was such a music fan. I mean, I still would love doing it, but I'm kind of burned out on writing at this point. I only write on Facebook now, but it's good stuff.
It's worth reading. Honestly, how do people follow you? Just at Jeff Clark, or what do you do?
You can only be my friend to follow me on Facebook. Sorry.
That's it. All right.
But I'm just, like I said, I'm more of a music fan, so I would love to do radio again, or just I still keep up with new music, and there's so much great new music still coming out. It's just insane, but you have to go looking for it. You're not going to hear it on the radio anymore. No. You can hear some maybe on Sirius if you have satellite radio, something like that. I don't really do Spotify. I get on YouTube sometimes and just start randomly clicking on videos. Who's this band? I found a great band from England called Heartworms that way. They're amazing. I find all kinds of bands that way.
You were talking on our radio show, My Fox FM, which I say My Fox, it's really Fox FM, but
it's our Fox FM.
Yes. But it's if you follow us on the app, which means you can hear us anywhere in the nation, 6 to 10 Eastern. It's My Fox FM. But we covered that with you, and you were talking about Australia's got hot music.
Australia has one of the greatest rock scenes ever going right now. I mean, Australia's always had a great rock scene from back in the 80s, even like Hoodoo Gurus and like the Radio Birdman. They've always had great rock there. Yeah. I don't know what it is about Australia, but currently the Chats are amazing. Amyl and the Sniffers are amazing. There's Split System, a band called Split System. I highly recommend. Just garage punk rock. It's just very exciting, fun stuff coming out of. There's a band called Skeggs from Australia.
I have a hard time, really trying new music. You know,
Why?
I don't know. I'm just kind of stuck in my ways. My thing is discovering new old music, songs that are old that I didn't really know.
That's good
Deep
too.
cuts, other bands that I didn't really.
That does work.
That's sort of my new music.
There's a wealth of what you would call classic rock and roll, I guess, that never got played on the radio. That you can, and bands even that never got played on the radio, that you can still discover. And I'm always learning about stuff like that too.
Me too, yeah.
But I've never wanted to stay static. I'm always interested, and I still go see bands all the time, new bands. I mostly go to clubs, smaller venues or small theaters at least.
Yeah.
Because you can have more fun usually at those, and so that's where these smaller bands play, and I'm just always going to see them. You know,
Well, still after all these years.
after all these years, I'm not worn out yet.
Well, here's what I recommend for Jeff Clark, and I'm just going to say Jeff Clark, and not maybe even you, Jeff, because I'm going to start burning your candle too. If you're burning the candle, like maybe you burn it at both ends, maybe it's just a puddle of wax with a wick. I recommend paying the bills here. Joe Bees. JoeBees.com, JoeBees.com. It's bee pollen. I don't know if you've ever taken it, but it's no joke. It gives me energy, gives me attention, and I've been on it now for 6 years, so they're a proud sponsor of the Yeah Come On show. 2 capsules a day on an empty stomach, and then you get your day rolling, and it also helps with allergies. So JoeBees.com. The other one that I don't think you need, and I don't think you need it either, but you might. If you're dealing with any issues out there, we know how crazy the world is, and sometimes music may relax you. I hope it does. But MarkwellTherapy.com. That's David Markwell. Go to MarkwellTherapy.com. I've known him for 15 years as well, and the guy has come on. He's the radio guy, and I think we need to bring him on just to be negative for a second. The school shootings and things that we talked about even today with what's going on in the world and how people are just dealing with some mental issues of some kind. And maybe we were tougher when we were kids. Nobody felt sorry for us. If we got picked on, you just dealt with it. You know
True.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
Yeah, you had to be tough.
We didn't wear helmets snow skiing or riding bicycles.
There were no safe spaces back then.
No, there were not. We rode in the back of pickup trucks and we're allowed to talk about it, and we didn't wear seatbelts. But I will say David Markwell, can't say it enough. If you're a person that needs to talk to someone, he can Zoom you or talk to you. He's here in Marietta and Blue Ridge, MarkwellTherapy.com. But those are our sponsors of the Yeah Come On show. But Jeff, what you're doing now, and you've been on Z93, you've been on 99X on air, you're open to it. It sounds to me like doing more broadcasting, but you're a person that wants to play new music. You think that's the one thing we're missing in radio?
I think so. I mean, to me, rock radio kind of dropped the ball. They kind of lost the plot somewhere. Like, I guess it seemed to be maybe the mid 2000s. By 2010, it didn't seem like any rock stations were playing new music anymore. It was all classic rock. It was all nostalgia, and college stations, to a large degree, have been shuttered or taken over by boring public radio or whatever. And it's like, and I know younger people now are getting there because these bands I'm talking about, they're playing large theaters. I mean, Mitski, this female singer-songwriter, just did 3 nights at the Fox Theater. Okay?
Oh, that's huge.
Never heard of her. Of course you've never heard of her. She's not played on the radio.
But that's 3,000 seats, so 9,000 people want to see this
That's
girl.
more than 3,000, more like closer to 5,000
Is it
seats.
really? Is that big?
3 nights in a row.
All right.
Stuff like that is happening, so people are hearing this music. Young people are not going to traditional radio, though, to hear it. And I'm wondering, is it because they're just like into getting their music from other sources, or is it because rock radio isn't playing these bands, and so they can't hear them on radio? Why would they listen? You know, it's like, which is it? Isn't it
on social media, TikTok? A lot of these bands are blowing up on social media.
Yeah, a lot of them are blowing up in other ways. But I mean, traditional radio is not playing them. And to me, that's a big reason why young people aren't tuning into commercial radio, to traditional commercial radio stations like you guys, like Fox and everything. Great station, it's fine, but it's an oldie station. It's just, that's what it is. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear new music. They think all new music sucks. I would counter that by saying you just haven't heard it. and you're not you're not investigating. It's it takes time to go on to these other places, YouTube.
Well, when you hear new music, you think Megan Thee Stallion.
Yeah, you think Cardi B or something like that.
Yeah.
No.
We're not talking about that.
We're not talking about that.
We're not talking about.
We're talking about new rock bands, fun rock
But
bands.
the Foo
great
Fighters
stuff.
are the only new rock band.
That's like the newest band that most people have heard. That and Coldplay. I mean, that's like the newest stuff. But no, things have been happening for decades since then, and it's just disheartening to me that that we've had now probably 2 decades of rock radio just missing the boat on all of it.
And what I think is going to happen, what I'd like to see happen, is you're looking at 3 veterans of radio, and we're still doing it on independent radio, but it's not corporate. So we get away with track 13, which we play every day at 7:40.
Yeah.
We do what Jeff is talking about. We play that one song on corporate radio, either played for a split second or didn't test well, but it's that song on an album that maybe you love and you're like, damn, they never played it on radio. That's what we do. Yeah. We let Jeff take the controls for 2 days on Fox FM. He did Motorhead one day because you loved Motorhead.
Motorhead's one of my favorite bands, yeah. And Ace of Spades never got played on rock radio. Even back then, rock radio was scared of Motorhead.
No.
It never gets old either.
Yeah, and that song still is amazing.
So we played it, we did it, and then, speaking of new music, we gave Jeff a second day because we wanted him to come back and do our podcast here today on the Yeah Come On Show. What was that band?
Not a Surf, and they're not a new band that got their start in the 90s. We played them when I was at 99X, but they have a great new album that just came out and a great single from it called In Front of Me Now, and it's just that song is so catchy. It's just pop rock. It's power pop.
It was very power pop.
Yeah, but it's so catchy.
Before we go, I want to talk about probably what you're most known for, and that would be
being an a-hole.
Being the founder and publisher.
No, I thought you were going to talk about his porn career.
the founder and publisher of Stomp and Stammer. That was a big local music, free magazine that was all over the place back in the day.
So after years of writing on the Creative Loafing, you started.
My friend Steve and I, we started Stomp and Stammer in 1996. At first, we were kind of ahead of our time, but we didn't know it. At first, we just wanted to be an online magazine in 1996. Wasn't happening back then. So a few months after we started doing that and we were going nowhere with it, we decided, well, let's publish it and be just a regular, print magazine, print magazine. And so we started that in November 1996. And if you include the months we did it as an online-only magazine, it went for exactly 25 years. I didn't know this when COVID basically ended it. I was kind of winding down anyway. I was burnt out on it. But when COVID happened and everything was shut down, all our advertisers were shut down. There was nothing we could do.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is probably a good time to pull the plug. And so the last issue, I believe, was February of 2021. And it after the fact, I kind of looked back, and we did it exactly 25 years.
Oh, I'm going to pin that on Dr. Fauci. If it wasn't for Dr. Fauci, we may still have Stomp and Stammer.
That demon.
What were you?
I hate that guy.
He ruined our local.
He ruined a lot of things. He ruined a lot of things.
Not a fan.
But I would say probably that we wouldn't have Stomp and Stammer anymore anyway. As I said, I was getting burned out.
Well, I remember running into you probably 15, 20 years ago when you kind of...
And I was saying, I'm sick of it. My God, I can't do this anymore. It was a lot of work. It wasn't just the writing. I did a lot of the writing myself. We had other writers, great writers, writing for it as well. We had great layout people, but I did all the advertising, sales. Tough. I did all the distribution. I drove all around Atlanta every month, dropping that damn thing off, and and my hands were covered in newsprint by the end of that. My car was filthy.
Yes.
It was just silly and ridiculous. So I did it for 25 years. That's plenty.
No, and you know what? And this is great. This is a guy that it throws the spaghetti at the wall and you've either heard him or you've read his material. And it's an Atlanta thing, but we send this out. Every city has this guy, but you were our guy.
Yeah.
And
I'm that guy.
And you're still doing it. And to me, I think a message to any radio station, especially in Atlanta where we live, or regardless of where you're watching this podcast, if they could, because corporate's too scared. Independent might jump on it with a full show, But do you think that maybe specialty shows with new music, putting them on and letting people see if the listenership grows? Because otherwise, radio's going to lose its audience.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely needed, especially, you know, like we were talking about Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, like all that stuff, which is now the current pop music. That you can hear that anywhere and everywhere. And rock music has become like everything's become like segmented.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like when I was, when WQXI was around in the 70s, and Top 40 radio back then was everything from, you know, Andrew Gold to the Eagles to whatever. It's like all over the Donna Summer, disco, rock. Now it's just everything's segmented, and every station's segmented.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, all the pop stations and country stations are playing new music, but for some reason, rock stations are not. They've just dropped the ball. And I think, yeah, it's like great, like I was saying, great rock and roll, new rock and roll is still out there, but it's like, where are you going to hear it? You got to go elsewhere. So yeah, I think it's definitely needed if this is to stay alive.
And here's the thing: radio is still free. You know, it's not free to the advertisers. Thank God we have them. Otherwise, we couldn't do what we do. They are the backbone. I was always a sales-minded air personality. I never hated on salespeople. I'm like, if it wasn't for these guys, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing and wouldn't pay our salary.
Yeah, sure. Is advertising supported? And, you know, and you need ratings. You need listeners. Although the ratings hold, that thing is such a stupid. We won't go into how silly the.
We can bring him back for part 2. Yeah. The rating system sucks.
It's ridiculous. There's like like 1% of the radio listeners in Atlanta are deciding what the ratings are, basically.
How about that?
So that's silly too. But I mean, rock radio is going to just die completely unless it gets an influx of new music. That's my feeling.
Well, there he is. We're throwing that spaghetti on the wall. We'll see if that sticks. If you're listening, it is the Yeah Come On Show podcast. Southside Steve, my co-host Jeff Cole, and special guest Jeff Clark. Thank you to my advertisers, and thank you for watching. Can I get a yeah come on?
Yeah, come on!